Welcome to Tiny Spark Creative. I'm E, your storyteller, and you are joining me for the man story. This is not part of the, 12-story inner child collection. Those are stories 1 through 12, each labeled with their title. This one is the man story. This is a little different. So with that, I'll begin. Actually, I'd like to start off by setting an intention that only the highest vibrations of unconditional love and light of positivity energy is shared during this reading from my soul to yours with love and light. Here we go. There once was a man who struggled under the weight of his thoughts. The man was not aware that his thoughts were his struggle until one day. On the outside, to most, this man may have appeared as if he had no problems. He is a husband and father, he works a good paying job, and he experiences several moments of success in both his personal and work life. But as I've said, this man struggles deeply with his thoughts. On the inside, the man hid his insecurities and vulnerabilities. He buried his fears, and never once did he face a history of life experience traumas to heal them. On the outside, he was liked and a touch popular. On the outside, he gained praise and attention for his accomplishments. He built reputations that he used to define himself, his personality, and his purpose, all molded from his outside experiences. On the inside, the man was an adolescent child, one who never healed his traumas and now found himself as in an adult seat at the control panel of the man's life. The narrator. The man's thoughts spoke to him, befriended him, and from a very early age, his thoughts became the narrator of his life. Using his thoughts against him, the narrator, his mind, used the man's fears and insecurities along with emotions such as guilt and shame to guide the man, all with an intention of keeping him safe. As the years of his life began to add up, so did the man's titles. He wore each one as they were needed, sometimes wearing several at once. He's a son, a brother, a husband, a father, a friend, an employee. He's known in his community by many. He proudly wears many titles, too many to list. The man entered each stage of his life holding hands and being led by the narrator, who carefully navigated his decision-making and ensured that he stayed safe with his choices. The narrator used the man's fears and insecurities to bring his awareness to the things that could go wrong, finding ways to steer the man away from pursuing his true desires whenever the man attempted to reach for more than he currently had. And the narrator lovingly supported the safe, familiar choices that the man had grown to find comfort in, the very same choices that kept leading the man to the same experiences of lack, depression, unworthiness, almost like he was in a repeating cycle. The narrator employed tactics and found creative ways to shake the man's confidence, all with the intention to keep him small and safe. The narrator served up heaping plates of self-judgment to control the man, and he received gifts filled with shame and guilt to complete the narrative of a failing son, husband, father, friend, employee, and sometimes even human being. The man had come to support a belief system that said he was unworthy of love, success, and happiness. He operated from a belief system that convinced him that his happiness could be found outside of him, in the hands of others, or in his possessions. Most of his life had him searching for his happiness, looking for it in his family and friends, his work and hobbies, and his possessions. But when happiness was not achieved, and the man was struck to pursue a new desire, the narrator quickly swooped in to highlight the man's past experiences and their perceived failures. The narrator then pointed to the similarities with his current desire and the inevitable outcome. The man was conditioned to judge himself a failure, sometimes before he even began. He accepted his lack mentality and lack of happiness, and once again stalled his pursuit for being more. Over the years, the man chased the dreams of others in search of his happiness and found that he could be very successful when he worked hard. But he also found that each successful experience ended the same, with the man feeling left empty and yet filled with disappointment. The narrator never skipped an opportunity to ridicule and shame the man each time that he failed once again to find happiness. The man reached many moments in his life when he wanted to give up. Until one day, the voice. One day, as the man sat in front of his TV doing what he did every day before, a new thought found its way into the man's awareness. The thought asked him, "Is this all there is to life? Really?" What the man did next, well, I can tell you right now, it changed his life forever. The man turned off the TV and went outside. He found a seat next to some trees and he just observed. With his eyes, he spotted flowers that had been in his garden for years, but he hadn't really noticed the details in them. He watched as bees and butterflies passed through to visit the flowers and bushes. He felt the wind brushing across his face. He could smell the fragrance of spring. He listened to the birds sing happy songs. He spotted a squirrel in his avocado tree, and the man smiled. The sun's catching up here. Let's see if we can get through this. The man sat in his present stillness, and the narrator started to speak once again. So the man listened. And for the first time, the man heard the narrator's words. He heard them, separate of himself. He took notice that the words were not very nice, not supportive, and not loving. The words hurt the man. So the man decided to close his eyes and breathe. He had to work hard, very hard, to silence the persistent and talkative narrator. And he did. It was in that moment right there that the man heard something. It was a voice that very gently and softly spoke to him. He focused on his breathing to keep the narrator silent, and so he could hear the voice again. The voice repeated what it had said to the man. "I love you." The man heard the words repeating and questioning, "I love you?" And the voice repeated, "I love you." The man felt the words as if each word had been transformed into emotions and energy that now gave permission for his body to feel the words, "I love you." The man sat with the trees, the birds, and the wind. He focused on his breathing, and he drank in the feelings and emotions that now coursed through his body, his cells, his soul. The physical feeling of "I love you" from the voice, his heart. The man began to cry. He's a crier, trust me. You see, it was at this moment that the man came to realize something. Down deep inside, the man was experiencing a familiar feeling, and he knew. He knew that he and the voice had spoken before. As children, the man and the voice once played together in imaginary worlds, just as two little best friends might play. And from the moment the narrator came into his life around age 5, 6, or 7, the man placed all of his trust in the narrator's opinions, guidance, and protection, and he could no longer hear the voice. The man felt the love flow in from the voice, and while he wept, he scanned the story of his life, carefully reviewing the perceived good and bad times, and he took notice of some things. The man became aware that the narrator helped shape his personality through fear and insecurity by using guilt, shame, and stories from his past. And during times that he desired a different narrative to his life, the narrator pushed back on the man in ways to shake his confidence and self-esteem. And so the man could see that his choices, his wishes, his desires, and his successes were not really his. He now understood that he was really bringing someone else's desires into reality, which never failed to result in a lack of fulfillment in him. And one other thing that the man came to notice is that the narrator never once said the words, "I love you," to him. The child self. As the man sat and cried and allowed in the love that called to him, he was presented with a story from his past, a story from his childhood, a traumatic story. The man saw his child self sitting alone, scared and in pain, and he came to realize that his child self had been stuck in time, suffering because he never healed from the wounds that now scarred him. Excuse me. Okay. The man kneeled and hugged his child self, and he said to him, "I love you." The man felt in his body the sadness and pain from his child self, and he allowed it to come forward for the very first time. The man, the child self, the voice, and yes, even the narrator, all sat and breathed together as one. And the pain began to break down into pieces until it melted and transmuted into feelings of love. Tears continued to flow from the man's eyes, but now joy and happiness replaced the pain and sadness. I think we're going to have to adjust because of the sun. Let's see if we can do this real quickly, because we're close to the end and don't have time for a full adjustment. Sorry about that. We're just going to keep rolling. Okay. Tears continued to flow from the man's eyes, but now joy and happiness replaced the pain and sadness. Another past pain-filled experience presented itself to be healed, and once again, through his breathing and stillness, the man, the child self, the voice, and the narrator loved the lower, denser feelings and emotions into higher, lifted energies of love. The man now understood that when his child self cried out for help, there were two that came to answer his call. The child self had two offers to choose from: a gentle, quiet "I love you" from the voice, and the narrator's promise to protect him from the scary things that could bring him pain and sadness. For a moment, the man came to hate the narrator. The man filled with blame and anger and set out to end his relationship with the narrator. But the voice spoke to the man and explained to him that the narrator did the best job he possibly could do when he stepped in to comfort and protect the child self, and that the narrator did everything out of love when he saw the child self suffering. The voice explained to the man that the narrator is really an adolescent child behind the controls, struggling to make adult decisions with the intention of keeping the man safe. The voice taught the man how to forgive the narrator. But the man first had to learn how to forgive himself before he could learn how to ever forgive another. The voice simplified this for the man by only asking him to do one thing: love himself without conditions. And the man started on his journey of forgiveness and unconditional love for himself and for all others. And he got there. And that part of the journey is a story for another time. The body and the roommates. The body is the man's home, and in his home he has roommates. He has built trusting, loving, supportive relationships with each of his roommates, the narrator, the voice, and his child self. They meet regularly and support one another through their challenges and what brings each one of them joy. Today, the man's heart is what leads his life. The voice guides the man to the things that are in alignment with his purpose, and the man uses his free will and discernment when making his decisions. He validates or rejects the information presented to him by checking in with his physical body for an answer, a response, before he accepts what becomes his truth. The man navigates every decision this way, and I should tell you that he includes the narrators in this process. He does this to reassure the narrator that it is safe to trust the voice and his loving direction. And the narrator is comforted and reassured that the man is making safe choices by way of the man's new life experiences that sing to and are in alignment with the man's heart, mind, body, and soul. The man came to learn that his love, joy, and happiness were in the last place he thought to look. He found them within, buried deep in his heart, calling to him by way of a soft, gentle, I love you. This man now chooses for himself the things that fill and overflow his heart's cup, and he is gifted with an abundance of love that he shares with others. Each morning that he awakens and his eyes open, the man smiles and his heart fills with gratitude because he has unconditional love for himself and roommates who love and support his choices when he chooses what makes his soul sing. That was my last story. And I want to thank you for listening to the man story. I want to tell you how grateful I am for your time and energy that you spent while taking this journey. If you listen to any of the other videos or this one, all, I'm just so very grateful to you. I'm so very grateful. This is my first time ever posting anything like this. This is way out of my normal comfort zone. But it's the journey I've been on that has led me here. It is my soul that led me to heal. It is my soul that led me to come out, get out from the fear of writing. I've always loved writing. I've always enjoyed it, and I've never shared it. And when I started to write and let my soul take the lead of what it wanted to do, well, I found I could write differently. I think when we operate with what our soul wants us to do, real magic happens, and we find that we're capable of anything. And so that's what came out in the Inner Child series. I'm so very grateful to be a part of that series, and I look forward to whatever wants to come through next. And thank you for allowing me to share the man story. This is a very, very some people are talking back here. I think that's my cue to end it, actually. I'll just say that also was written from my heart and soul. And if any of this helped, it's all done with the intention of sharing and hoping that it makes your life a little easier. I've been on a 5-year journey, and I know when it was my toughest, when I was at my hardest and breaking points and the toughest challenges. And believe it or not, YouTube helped me out a lot. A lot of folks telling their story, helping each other, just grabbing the hand of the person behind you and pulling them along. So that's what I hope these videos do. With that, I got to get out of here. It's been a long day. Thank you so very much. Love and light in my heart. I thank you. 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 Namaste.